All right. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon here with the Urbane Prospectors, Otto and James, your native New Yorkers. We're going to tell us all about New York street games. So take it away, James and Otto, and let's talk about those New York street games. Games you little kiddies used to play.
Not gangs, games.
Games. Games you used to play. Go ahead.
Well,
Uh,
there's so many of them. I don't know, James, where to begin. I mean, a lot of the games that I played in New York, I played at other places, but there's certain games that are New York oriented games that I don't think, unless somebody tells me otherwise, are played anywhere else.
All right. Okay.
yeah. Yeah. I, you have certain games that are just New York. You know, and some of these games that are New York games have been played for almost centuries. Believe it or not. Let's get this right. Let's get
Don't
one
start with
game.
me.
Don't
Don't
start.
don't
Don't
do
start.
Oscar.
Don't start with me. Say,
Oscar.
mispronouncing the word.
No,
Let,
no,
let me
no,
say
no,
this.
no.
Let me say this.
You guys in Brooklyn said it one way. In the Bronx, we's guys in the Bronx said it another way.
Let me say this. Let me say this.
Oh
The
boy.
newcomers, the people who are new to the city, they may have come to New York City from West Virginia or Indiana or some other godforsaken place. So they come in and they see these things on the street in the middle of the street, right? With
Right,
these numbers and stuff on them,
right.
and they driving all fast, and they may even try to endanger some of our kids who want to play this game. Okay,
Right.
and so the name of the game, according to people in the Bronx, is called,
Skelzies.
and
Okay.
people
Okay.
in Brooklyn, it's called Skelly.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay. There you
God.
go.
I do. What is wrong with you people out there? It's Skelzies.
Oh my goodness.
Skelzies. Not stalactites or,
Skelly,
or
Skelly,
Skelly.
and
Skelly and Mulder. It's not,
Okay.
no,
it's not Scully. It's not Scully. It's Skelly.
Skelly.
we call this Skelzies. Okay. And what the game consisted of is you look on the ground and it's a box. In fact, sometimes if you caught um this somebody repairing the street, and if they use tar, and if
Hmm.
you were quick enough before the tar hardened, you would put numbers in the box, okay, and then you had the little box in the center of the box numbered, and what you did, I don't know what they did in Brooklyn, but you got bottle caps, and you even use wax. You would melt the wax into the bottle cap, or
Hmm.
sometimes again with the tar, you put tar in the bottle caps,
Yep.
and that was what you used. And the object of the game was to get your bottle cap into the box to the point where you got to the highest number, and then Otto, what would you say when you got to the highest number within that smaller box? What would you say?
Skelly.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
What else you all
And
say?
See, here's the difference. Here's the difference with us. We would get once you got to a certain number and the number started in the box within the box, you would make sure just to tap your bottle top lightly and go
Lightly.
within that box, and you would go to one box and you would say I, then the next one M, then the next one A, the next one Killer, then the next one Diller.
No,
Really?
we
Yeah,
just go to Skelly. And
Okay,
let me tell you.
now can I put on this thing in the middle of
there
the
you go. There you
pixie?
go. You see now. You see
Uh-huh.
the inner box.
Yeah, yeah.
You see the number 13.
Right.
Though the area around the 13,
Mm-hmm.
you would hit the bottle top. You go I am a killer Diller, and Diller usually meant when you got on 13. It was like check.
Mm-hmm.
I won. That's it. And the thing about it, in New York City, the game was so popular that where I lived at in Bronx River Houses,
Mm-hmm.
we had a Italian kid named Charlie Travali. And during the summer, he was Chelsea's caretaker. I kid you not, he would come downstairs with a broom and sweep the board.
Hmm.
Okay, and then other kids would come down later and play Skelsies all day.
Now the thing is that if you're a newcomer to the area, to New York City, you would see this thing that looks like a gosh, how do you describe it? Like maybe like a
Mm,
I don't know how to describe it. It's like it's square. It has
yeah.
a number in each corner, and
Yeah,
then
we put
the
one.
thing
If you
in the
have your screen up, you can't see it, but we posted one.
okay,
That
okay. But people wouldn't know what that is, right?
no,
They wouldn't know what that is. And
probably
then
not.
the best top to play with. I don't know, James, if you've ever done this, but
Okay, no. Mm-hmm.
the best top to play with is to carefully get like a Pepsi or Coke bottle that had a glass lip, and
Right.
then rub that off, and the lip came off by itself, and then fill that glass lip with tar. That was
Wow.
a precious, oh so precious Skelly,
Well, I
Skelly
mean,
cap. That was the benchmark.
again, that's the variation that you guys did. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in Brooklyn, we didn't mess with a glass slip. We just use either Coca, Pepsi, or remember this RC Cola.
Oh
I remember them.
yeah, we got
Yep.
those.
Okay, and some people, I wouldn't advise it to newcomers, but if you got the cap, don't rub the top of the cap where that had like I guess the logo or paint ink or paint
Mm-hmm.
on it. Don't do that because the more you rub that when you did that, you made the bottle top go faster, but you didn't want it to go too fast where you overshot
That's right.
the
Yeah.
boxes.
Then you
Uh-huh.
go outside the box, and then you wouldn't be able to hit your opponent out when you're trying to hit the bottle.
Right.
And the thing is about these games is I don't know whether people walking by or driving by whether they thought we were playing craps, rolling dice or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, but we were on the ground on our knees
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
playing this game in the middle of the street. It's not played
Yeah.
anywhere else. It's not played on the sidewalk.
Mhm.
It's not played in a basement or something. It's played directly in the middle of the street where cars drive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, we weren't that reckless. Okay,
Oh my goodness, we were very
our
reckless.
Skelzy board was in Bronx River. It was off to the side of my building because see, my building was called the Powerhouse Building,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a back porch, which also doubled as an outfield wall.
Oh,
Okay.
fancy!
Yeah, listen,
Fancy.
we Bronx River have hoity-toity.
Yeah,
Hoity-toity. So we were kind of a sports mecca back then. We played everything, but our Skelzy board was off to the side near where the fuel truck used to come to put fuel in the boilers, the tanks
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. So Charlie Travali, um, and Charlie Travali was funny because he was an Italian kid and he would certain things to death. Like when I say squeeze to death, would be like, okay, you have Halloween, right?
Hmm.
Everybody go trick or treating. Charlie Travali would knock on your door the next day,
What?
talking about. I kid you not,
Why?
because he was kind of a Ralph Cramden. In fact, I would say his father was definitely a Ralph Cramden because his father was also in a different job. He would come home in a different uniform
Hmm.
every couple of weeks, Mr. Travali. Yeah, he would knock on the door Halloween. The day after Halloween, asking for candy because see, in his brain, let's get the leftovers.
Oh boy.
You gotta be
You know,
kidding.
yeah, and then it would be funny to give it a really New York flair. Summertime, 6, 7 o'clock, we out there doing our thing. All of a sudden, his moms would stick her head out the window. Charlie, time to come upstairs, and he would be like, 5 more minutes, ma. You
Oh
know,
boy. Oh
yeah.
god.
Uh,
So getting back to Skelsies, yeah,
Now
that's how.
we played in
so
the street, and a lot
okay.
of our games, and we called it street games. A lot of our games in Brooklyn, at least, were in the middle of the street where cars and automobiles rode.
Yeah. So you street.
Buses.
You meant
Yeah,
street.
yeah.
Okay.
So
So
what you
so I have a
what?
question. I have a
Yeah,
question for you all. Now I can see how these little bottle caps, right? So do
right.
you thump them across, right? You or
Yeah,
thunk them, how you say thunk them across
Yeah, flick
the
them with your
flick
yeah,
fingers,
them
yeah,
across.
okay. So that's how you have to do it. You
like
don't get to
shoot them. Like
right. You
yeah.
have to okay, cool.
Yeah, and another thing I forgot when we got to the middle box and you did that little thing, and it's basically to shove it, to
Yeah.
shove it in the loser's face. I
Okay, yeah.
am a killer dealer. Then you would say, and I'm heading out of town, and you would flick your top eye off the board.
Oh, that's
You forgot
cute.
a board.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you guys were something else, and you played a little bit differently,
Hmm.
and I think we were too young to play marbles, so I think the
Hmm.
Skelly is a variation of marbles. I'm not sure how to play
I
marbles.
would. You know what? I would say so. Yeah, because marbles was we played marbles, but really that was the older guys
Hmm.
that played marbles. We weren't really into marbles. You didn't have too many people playing marbles. Now, another thing we did was with spinning tops. You know, we would go to the candy store down on Bronx River Avenue, and you get these spinning tops, and the string,
Hmm.
and that we would get in the lobby of the building, and you wrap the string around the lower part
Hmm.
of the top, and you spin it.
And spin it,
Yeah,
and the thing is, like, I
The
couldn't
fighting
understand my
tops,
grown
they
ups.
bam against each other like this.
But that,
Like
yeah,
those kind. Yeah.
and I couldn't understand why grown-ups were so like, stop doing that, it's dangerous. But now as a grown-up I understand that was a dangerous toy.
yeah.
So you used to get this thing, and then snap the string back, and then you
Mhm.
do tricks with them. You would get
Hmm.
your string,
Mhm.
and you would have your top walk the string, do the
Yeah.
tightrope.
Hmm.
Yeah. Which
And
which
so
yeah. Go ahead.
that was a dangerous ass game.
Yeah, because the point, it was a metal point. The top was wooden, but the point was metal. And heaven forbid if you had friends that got in an argument, because if it came to blows, the point could be used as a weapon.
or or
Wow.
or or if you were awkward in your
Hmm.
presentation, you would snap it back and fly off and hit somebody.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
You know, another thing, cause see, we had a candy store down on Bronx River Avenue that as the year went on, spring, summer, that was our go-to place. For like wooden airplanes.
Hmm.
Um, then you had yo-yo season, and
Oh
yo-yo
yeah.
Yo-yo,
yo-yo.
which I've also, but I found out, James, is that the
Mhm.
yo-yo apparently is also a weapon.
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
oh yeah, yeah. Because if if you wound it up a certain way and you did your thing, you flicked it, you can inflict paint
Yeah,
on another person.
but I mean, it's an official weapon.
Yeah,
Penelope.
it is a weapon.
No, I'm not surprised. I'm not
Yeah.
surprised because if you had the old school wooden ones,
Hmm.
you could hurt the hell out of somebody with it. But with us, we waited until what we call Duncan season.
Oh
And
man.
that's when Duncan yo-yos. Duncan yo-yos, they were the kings.
Duncan was the king,
Yeah,
and
they were.
I never seen anybody use it as a weapon. But you know, when I moved down here, and
Hmm.
somebody brought out a yo-yo, and I don't think they knew how to use it. It was a Duncan yo-yo, and I started doing it. There was a maze, and some of the simple tricks that I did
Mhm.
as a kid. You know, like the stuff that we did that was just the simple stuff, like walk the dog, or
Mhm.
rock the cradle,
Mhm.
or around the world.
Yep.
You know, really simple stuff. I mean, there was some guys who did the Duncan yo-yo thing. They were great, and then Duncan came out with the ones that had lights in it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I remember those.
yeah. But believe it or not, I have in my closet. I have a. There we go.
That is a
Wow.
yo-yo. In fact, this is the Filipino twirler, and there was the person who posted it was saying that this is a vintage Filipino twirler yo-yo circa 1950s. It was an indigenous weapon, a pre-Hispanic Philippines.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not surprised. I'm not
mhm.
surprised because you could really, especially if it was wood, you could crack somebody's dome.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know. Yeah.
I never seen it used as
Okay,
a weapon though. But
was the
yeah,
purpose of these games population control?
no,
Well, if you were playing Skelsies in the middle of the street,
Hmm.
yeah.
it could
Yeah.
be. Although I never saw anyone or heard of anyone getting hit struck by a car. And there are many kids that I heard of being struck by a car in Brooklyn,
Hmm.
unfortunately. But I never
Well,
heard of anybody getting struck by a car playing Skelly.
Yeah.
well. Again, we weren't in the middle of the street, but then again, when you look at it, though, I'm quite sure that was a low number because we played games in the street. Don't get me wrong, but we knew enough that if we saw a car coming,
Hmm.
just wait until the car passed,
Or yell
and then
car.
boom. Yeah,
Or
Yeah.
you know,
yell car.
Hey,
yeah,
everybody. Yeah.
you know. So I'm quite sure it was, you had people that young kids that did get hit by a car, but pretty much common sense to tell you, listen, you see a car coming down the street, you gotta
Get your ass out the way.
yeah get out the way.
Yeah.
Now another game, I don't know if you guys in Brooklyn played it, but we did was Johnny on the Pony.
That sounds like something to play in the village.
Well, when if you were walking by and saw kids playing Johnny on a Pony, you would probably say, "Oh, well, that needs to be in the West
Well,
Village."
explain this
Where
game.
Yeah. Explain, said Johnny on
okay,
the.
Johnny on the Pony. First of all, you had to find a fire hydrant, right? And you split. If you had like 5, 10 kids, you would split it up into like 5 kids on one side, five on the other side. Usually, we would have tournaments where we played each other's buildings. You know, 1440 would play 1575, which was my building.
Hmm.
Um, 1609 would play 1695. And what it was is you found the fire hydrant. And here's where the West Village thing comes in. Somebody from your team would go and bend over, okay,
Oh no.
Hey.
and hold on to the fire hydrant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Then the other team's person would come, and believe it or not, this is another dangerous game. We get a running start and try and piggyback on that person.
Yeah.
Then if I think if they made it, we scored or whatever. But then you would get another person that would hold on to the back of the person that's holding on to the fire hydrant, and you would do this back and forth until the other team collapsed,
That
so
sounds
to
on
speak.
crazy.
on the sidewalk.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
sounds crazy.
you know.
Huh.
So and again, that was an ancient New York game. You know, they would kids were playing it back in like the 1930s, 20s, and 30s and whatnot. It was for a while. It was really ingrained in New York. You know,
Well,
this is how kids had their entertainment in the 20s and 30s, and it was passed
Mhm.
down. Just like, believe it or not, there was a time when in New York City in Manhattan, you had launch day.
What day?
Okay, launch.
what is
Like
that?
Launch.
launch day was consisted of you and your buddies either went down to the piers on the Hudson or the piers on the East River, and y'all basically spent the day throwing each other into the water.
Okay,
Okay.
that
Well,
sounds
that
like a
sounds.
bunch of fun. In the East River,
That's okay.
And they didn't
No.
have like DCF in those days or anything, right?
Apparently
Nah,
not.
no,
nah.
that
In
sounds
fact,
insane. Your people are insane there.
in,
Yeah.
in, in fact, in fact, there was a time if you were like an orphan in New York City, they would snatch you up and put you on a train head out west to some type of I don't know whether it's a reform school or whatever, but that's what they would do. You know,
Why?
there was because
That makes sense.
you had a lot of kids that were basically living in the streets.
Hmm.
Okay, at a certain time in the early to mid 20th century, and this is before um this is before BCW, Bureau of Child Welfare, which was turned into now in New York City ACS. Okay, so the only thing you had to tend to kids in New York City was like settlement houses.
Mm.
Okay, like there was a settlement house for black kids in the Tenderloin district. But anyway, getting back to the games, yeah,
Yeah.
But wait a minute
you
before you go
So okay,
there.
was that a game throwing somebody on a
Yeah,
train out of town?
before you go
That was a
there,
game? Huh?
before you go there, James.
hmm
You know the one word that struck fear in the hearts of all adolescent black boys in the city of New York. Spofford.
oh, Spofford, yeah, which was not too far from where I grew up from. Spofford was in Hunts Point, and yeah, if you
If
did
somebody
something,
said,
they
"I'm taking your ass
woo,
to Spofford,"
yeah, you would spaz out. You would
oh
spaz
no, not
out. No,
Spofford!
please, I'll do anything. I'll get good grades. I won't do it anymore.
Where's your
Hmm,
son? Where's your son
please,
going? Oh, he's headed to Spofford.
Prophet. Yeah, and
Wow.
see, when we heard like one of our friends was going to Spofford, that was like, oh shit, they going to Sing Sing. They're going to Attica. They
Spofford.
Yeah, you thought, oh my God, you thought you'd be shackled and you gotta you gotta get on the bus, and when you get there for dinner, you had gruel.
and
You
then
know
you
what I'm saying?
and then you go through your
Mhm.
induction period, which
Hmm.
apparently consisted of multiple beatings
Yeah,
by older boys and some younger boys too.
yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
yes. Spofford, hmm, they finally closed Spofford down. Now they have like neighborhood juvenile detention centers, like where I work at in Brownsville. A friend of mine, he's a sergeant. He works in the detention center in
Hmm.
Brooklyn. You know, or near what is it, East New York Avenue.
Hmm.
But yeah, if you heard you wanted to scare your kid, you say, you gotta go to
You go to
Spofford.
Spofford, and Spofford, understand Spofford was like the training school for Attica.
Yeah,
So it's like you need to go to your charm school or your training school. Spofford was that, and then you graduate to actual Attica.
yeah. You would graduate from there. Then you do a little time in central booking. Then you go to Rikers. And if you
Wow.
were and with the girls, you would have, oh God, I don't remember the girls' juvenile place, but I
I don't
know,
remember the girls' juvenile place, but I'm too worried about the Spofford.
yeah,
So
cause
I had to keep my. If a girl made it in and out or whatever they came in, good for them. God
yeah,
bless them.
and if they kept it up, they would end up in Bedford Hills.
Hmm.
Okay, that was the detention center for women, going upstate. But yeah, you had launch day, then with Johnny on a Pony, which
Johnny on the
sometimes,
pony.
yeah, it was that was dangerous because if you was the person that had to hold on to the fire hydrant, yeah, sometimes your head would hit the fire
Oh
hydrant,
my gosh.
yeah.
That sounds like a dangerous game that grown-ups will not allow you to play.
Yeah, and it was also kind of like that's was a rite of passage because you had to be a little bit older, you know, and you know a little bit older, like right, I guess preteen, because
Wow.
little kids really couldn't play that game. You know what I'm saying? Then
Yeah, I
you,
mean, holding on to a fire hydrant, I guess
Hit your
not.
head, hit your head
Yeah.
in a hard part.
Oh
You know
my gosh.
the the
Well,
the,
not
the thing is, most New York games was based on things you didn't have, right?
hmm
Things
So
you
it's
didn't
like if you
have.
didn't have this, you didn't have that, you made it to a game. So the king of New York, you know, you played a lot of ball. So the thing that was the king of all balls in New
Hmm.
York was a Spalding.
yeah,
The Spalding. So
yeah,
so many different games we played with the Spalding, which every bodega, every corner store had.
yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
I have no idea how much it cost. I have no idea.
Oh, I think back then
Nickel, 10,
I'd say maybe 15 cents at the most.
15 cents. And
Yeah,
God, they were
cause
the most beautiful thing that I've ever
Hmm.
seen in the entire world as far as a ball,
yeah,
A Spalding.
a
yeah,
Spalding ball.
they
Yeah,
look like
because
this.
they're beautiful.
Yeah,
They're beautiful, and and you get a new one that says Spalding on it.
yeah. This I don't know what they call. This is called a high bounce pinky.
A high
Beautiful.
bounce pinky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to tell you the truth, I think this ball, if I was to pit it through some paces, would be kind of faint of heart because Spalding's because Spalding's were rugged.
Yeah, we're
Hmm.
rugged. They're
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah,
They were made by I heard by Michelangelo, and they were
Huh.
beautiful. And you could play all kind of New York ball
all
games
kinds of
with them.
games.
You could
Yeah,
play a stoop ball, which I don't think stoops exist anyplace else but New York.
A stoop
yeah,
ball. So
Stoop
yeah.
how
You,
ball.
is stoop ball played?
Well, first you need a stoop, and I'm not
Yes.
talking about a stupid person. I'm not
Okay.
talking about a stupid. You need a stoop,
hey, Stoop,
and
come
then
here.
so you your people will stand in the street, right?
Hmm.
And you get your Spalding and you
Hmm.
hit
Hmm.
it against the steps of a stoop
Right.
and it would bounce off the stoop and fly up in the air.
Okay.
And whoever caught it would be the next person who would pitch on the
Yeah,
stoop.
yeah,
And it's called stoop ball.
Is it played
yeah,
fast or slow?
It is fast. And sometimes if you're playing in teams, the faster
Hmm.
if you caught the ball and then ran up to the stoop and threw it as hard as you can, then you get extra points and then you wind up winning. Stoop ball.
yeah.
So how do we know how we win?
Everybody had a team
Let's say, but how are we counting points?
by catching the ball.
So every time you catch the ball
That's a
is
point for your team.
okay. All right.
so.
Yeah.
Let me
If you
get
drop the
this
ball,
straight.
yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So let me get this straight. There were no boys and girls clubs, no children, no athletic leagues, no organized sports. You just made up
Well,
They're
these
not made up. These are
survival.
some of these are very ancient
Yeah,
games.
yeah.
there was
Well,
that.
well. See.
They had
Here's
that
the
too.
thing.
Yeah,
Here's the thing.
like the Hunger Games or something, right? Yeah, okay.
No, here's
Okay.
the thing. Okay, we had youth centers. We had a lot of organized youth things. We had day
Hmm.
camp. We had baseball, little league, all
Pal,
of that.
pal.
You had kids that didn't have to worry about occupying the time because their parents either bought them sporting goods or toys. But these games, even kids that had everything,
Hmm.
these games still attracted everybody because it was like a community
It's
type of
communal. It's a communal game.
yeah, it's a communal thing. I can remember I loved it because I had the option during the summer. Okay, I had my toys and my goodies and all this, but I was like, some days I would stay upstairs and play with my stuff, but then some days I went outside and played these games, and it was a way to meet other kids. I can remember one time in the back, was it 172nd, right along James Monroe High School. We opened up the fire hydrant and we would get popsicle sticks and just throw them in the water
And race them in the
and
gutter.
race them in the gutter,
Yep.
Hmm.
and have just as much fun as anything else. That was
That's
the thing.
we
Then you,
had that. Understand? We had Boys and Girls Club. We had
hmm
Police Athletic League. We had all those
yeah,
things, but they didn't operate on our schedule all the time.
Hmm.
that's
Like
another
sometimes they
thing.
wouldn't be open on Sundays or
Hmm
very late at night or so. You get a bigger older teenager to come out with a wrench
Hmm.
and open up the fire hydrant, and you get a can. Let's say a
hmm
can of string beans. Let's say Del
hmm
Monte. Del Monte string beans was the best can.
Oh, of
And
course.
so
Okay.
you rub your can on the sidewalk,
hmm
and of course there'd be a hole when it had already been cut. But you need another hole, so you rub your can on the sidewalk, and you have another hole, and then that hole became your hose,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you would use that can as a hose,
hmm
and it
To
sounds
direct the
rough and
water.
rugged, but it's like one of the most fun things I've ever had.
Listen, you would if you were a grown up and you're crossing 174th Street to go up Manor Avenue, and it's like in the morning you hear scrape, 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 scrape,
Yep.
scrape, scrape, scrape. You like, God
Uh,
damn it, them kids are at it
Yeah.
again, And then it would be, you would open up the fire hydrant, and like Otto said, the can would be a water hose. Now, if you wanted to start trouble, the car would come down the block, and you would be like, okay, you step back, let the car go by. Person driving. Back then, it
Rev
was
up.
Impala and whatnot. And,
hmm.
and as soon as they start to go through the water, you run and you just
Spray
put the can on.
this.
Yeah, and usually the person would get pissed because now the inside of the car is mess, and they come
Hmm.
out. Maybe it's a Latino person. They muddy fuck on what that.
Mother, yeah.
So yeah, you had that, and but see, then here we go, the fire department.
Or
Here we
or
go.
or
Look
or
at
the old
them.
lady,
They're
or the old lady
complaining.
trying to cook, right?
Mm.
My water pressure is so low with these kids in this fire hydrant. I can't even cook my beans, my dinner.
and, and
Shut
the
up,
fire,
bitch! I'm trying to do
the fire. Well, that sounds like Miss Schutzy in Bronx River. Miss
it.
Schutzy was old.
My water pressure is too low. I can't even flush the toilet.
He would complain about everything. And if she saw you walking on the grass, Miss Schutzy be sitting there, and she like, God didn't meant for you to walk on the grass like that. And
God,
we be like, okay,
God,
Miss Schutzy. But then it got to the point, God didn't mean for you to walk on the grass like that. We shut up,
shut up.
shut up.
Or
Yeah,
or or you get the cops. The cops will come out and say,
Mhm.
Listen, kids, we're not trying to evoke any sort of trepidation. We need for you guys, if you're going to open the fire hydrant, we support that. We know that summer months are hot for you. And so what we're going to do is put a little sprinkler on top of it.
oh,
It's like, yeah, you know what? That damn sprinkler was the bane of our existence. That was no
yeah,
fun.
yeah. So you
Oh my goodness.
got the fire hydrant going full force. And then see with us, the fire department would just come and they shut it off. But then one year they show up and they pull out the little sprinkler cap And we're like, oh, okay, maybe that'll work. That, oh, please.
No, no, because you know what they said? There's no
Mm-mm-mm.
way in the world we can stop these niggas from opening this fire hydrant. Okay, so let's just put
Oh,
this sprinkler on here, and maybe that'll slow them down.
wow.
It didn't
And
slow them down.
you would come by the fire hydrant like an hour later. Nobody is at the fire hydrant. Just the fire hydrant and the sprinkler cap and it's
This stupid sprinkler.
yeah,
And who
spraying
did
that.
that belong to anyway? After the end of the day, did somebody come and get that?
You know what? That's a
Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm.
good question. I think I could be wrong, but I think they would keep it on during summer,
All
and
the
then
time?
after a certain date, they would take it off. They'd be
Or
like,
maybe it was
nah.
in that old lady's house when she came
But
out.
it's possible, you know.
It's like
But
taking the world's slowest shower. That's what that damn thing was.
I wouldn't even call it that
It was
because
horrible.
yeah, because you
But they had
come
no
and
force.
Is that what it
yeah,
is? Like this
How
thing?
am I gonna
Is
knock
that I
another
put a
kid over?
picture of? It's supposed to be a. Is that what they are? A fire hydrant with a sprinkler cap on? Is that
yeah,
it?
Yeah,
yeah.
how am I gonna knock another kid over with the force of a fire hose? With a sprinkler.
Yeah.
How you supposed to be giving kids head trauma? You can't give a
Yeah, I
kid
would be
head
knocking their
trauma
feet
with
up.
that.
I would be knocking. If I could blow a young lady's top off with a hose,
Okay, that's terrible.
or just knock somebody's feet out from under them. I'm
Yeah,
not talking about trying to vote or anything like that. I just
and
trying to get what I just trying to cool the summer month in July.
and again, this is stuff that goes back. It was part of New York tradition. You know, it was part of
Hmm.
New York tradition. These games we're talking about launch day. Um,
Well,
there
James,
even
we saw about stoop ball, and you
Stu-
also talk about the game that people show people like Willie Mays playing and
Hmm.
other New York
stickball.
Yankees
Yeah,
stickball in the street. Stickball.
yeah, yeah. Stickball. That was another popular. In fact, to this day, you have old timers that have stickball tournaments. Remember with our Latino brothers and sisters,
Hmm.
their thing was handball.
Yeah.
Oh my God, handball.
Okay, they would stay in the handball court for hours, days.
They could do it, and then they use
Yeah,
any gloves or anything.
no
They
gloves.
just use a big thick hand and,
Okay, there we go.
and they had this. And you play against a Puerto Rican brother or Puerto Rican sister that knew how to play the handball as a thing they called the killer.
Hmm.
And it was a killer. It looked like a karate chop. So they karate chop the ball, and oh damn, you win.
Uh-huh.
And nothing for nothing. Again, going back with New York tradition, there was a time, like I said, you know, being that this was the '60s,
Hmm.
you had parents had a little bit more income so they could buy the kids stuff. But there was also a time where kids would get up during the summer and they go to the junkyard, and the first thing they look for was like an old discarded shopping cart.
Hmm.
They would get the wheels off the shopping cart. Then they look for like a nice piece of board, and they build their own like go karts. Okay, you would also like with the wooden milk crates. You find a way to bust out one side of it, and you would um commandeer your father's hammer and nails. Okay, and get some string, and kids would make their own go karts. You
Hmm.
know,
And those
this
things,
is
Well, where
those
would you
things, were-
ride them?
those things are dangerous. Ride them up and down the street. There's no
yeah.
brakes.
Oh
No
well,
brakes.
well. See, with us again, we were like a sports mecca because around Bronx River was like a combination Yankee Stadium, City Field. Kids would race the go karts on the porch that I had mentioned earlier in the
Hmm.
back of my building and have go kart races. Only problem is you had to find somebody to push you around the oval. You know,
Yeah, nobody
and
gonna push you around.
Well, some kids they used to trade places. I'll be the driver, you be the pusher, vice versa. But then some kids like, nah, I ain't freaking pushing you around all day. Get out of here with
Exactly.
that. You
Exactly.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then you had two forms of roundup. Okay, roundup is if you if you were it, you had to spend the day chasing after people and catching them. And once you catch a
Mm-hmm.
person, they would be on your team, and you would spend the rest of the day chasing after kids until you caught everybody. And the first person caught is usually the person that's it for the next round.
Yeah.
Now the only problem with Roundup was you had what we had. We had rules. We had okay, we're gonna do Roundup around the building. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
But don't be it if it's Roundup around the projects. Okay, because some kids, me included, okay, we're hiding. Okay, I'm gonna go upstairs and get something to eat.
It's too much space.
Ah,
Too much.
And you could. I remember looking out the window and seeing the person that's it walking up down the project.
and you're inside eating a sandwich.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
that's
inside.
that's where the danger of being struck by a car, came
Mm-hmm.
about, and that's where one time I remember I came home, and my mom came to me and said, "Miss Jones said you almost got hit by a car." And I was in trouble.
Thanks, Miss Jones.
Yeah, it's like, but the thing was that people hung out in their windows. People,
Mm-hmm.
parents hung out when they watched their kids. They watched other people's kids. People were responsible for other people's kids or felt responsible for other people's kids. So
Yeah,
they saw them. Yeah, and they'll tell on you, and they'll take things into their own hands.
see
Of course,
that's
that's
that.
not a thing that happens now.
See that's a very good image there of stickball because you see that's the Manhattan Bridge
Mm-hmm.
in the background, and also is very authentic because that part of the Lower East Side you had Italians, you had Irish, and you had black kids.
Yeah,
And we would
Jewish
and
play
kids.
against each
and
other.
it
I
shows
remember,
how old this is as a game. Like you say, this stuff goes back and back and back.
and we
Old.
would
Yeah.
play. We would play against ethnicities. It'd be
Mm-hmm.
the blacks against the Puerto Ricans against the
Hmm.
Italians, the blacks against any mix of whatever your team was consist of.
Hmm.
That would be you would play against them, and then that's how you chose sides. And the thing is, there's this thing. I don't know how you explain it, James, but how you choose sides would be you go up the stick. You could use fingers or you can
Right.
use your fist. And if you held it at the edge, that means that you get to choose your team first.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
what that was called, but it was a thing that was done
And you did the little what they call eagle claws at the top.
at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then and then if you do eagle claws, you get to swing it. And if you're able to hold on to it, then you get to choose first. That's what we did in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So you
And
get all the way to the top, and then even at the top, you swing it. If you hold on to it, then you get to.
Yeah, the other person swings it as hard as
Mm-hmm.
they can.
and then another way was we used to do odds or evens,
Yeah, odds are evens.
and
Not
see
not rock not rock paper scissors. Odds are evens.
odds or evens, and see you made sure to stockpile your team like free agents. You went for
Yeah,
the
Mm-hmm.
best players. You know what I'm saying?
and
You
the poor
you
kids. What about the poor kids that never got chosen?
yeah, you had to
What a bunch of what a bunch of losers.
yeah, you choose, and poor Tito is standing there looking sad. Yeah, all right, come on.
Yeah,
Yeah, you put
he's
them
a
in there.
nice guy.
Or somebody's little brother.
Yeah, you gotta let him play. You
Yeah, you
gotta let my
got to let
brother
them play.
play.
Yeah, yeah.
My mom let me come back in if you don't let my brother play.
He's an
It,
automatic out, or the person, or the kid that had the ball, right? The kid
yeah,
that had
there's with the handball. Yeah,
Yeah, the kids that had the
yeah,
ball. And then James, I don't know if they played this in the Bronx, but this is where you had the bases, but you didn't have a stick or you didn't have a bat or anything else. But we called it, and Penelope couldn't believe that we called this. It's called punch ball.
Yeah,
You get the
So what
ball
the
and you
heck?
punch the hell out of it.
yeah, punch
Punch
ball.
ball.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, you get it the ball, and if I remember correctly, I could be wrong. You bounced it up in the air and you just punched it.
Or back in Brooklyn, what we did was toss it in the air and
That
knock
was
it,
another way. Yeah,
and then
Yeah.
punched it.
yeah.
Okay, but what kind of ball was it though?
Spalding. What do you
Spalding.
think?
You gotta be kidding how far that would go.
Yeah, but
And let me
sometimes it
tell
did based
Spalding
on.
made Spalding, if not billions, they made millions off of New York City.
Mm-mm-mm.
They Spalding, that was the go to.
Mm.
And if you trace Spalding, the company, they were the ones that supplied a lot of baseballs and gloves and stuff to Major League Baseball. In fact, I think Spalding, I think he actually played for the Cincinnati franchise.
Really?
Yeah, and he was also the one that put out that false story about Abner Doubleday inventing baseball
So why did he do that?
to sell products. Because Spalding also they also sold scorecards, score books. You know, they were the major supplier of all things baseball.
Hmm.
And
You know,
basketball.
basketball too.
Yep,
Of course, with basketball, that's the city game.
that's the city game, and a lot
Yeah.
of times, because once again we were deprived of basketball courts for a while, so we would get a crate
Mm-hmm.
again with the rubbing.
There you go.
Again with
There
the
we go.
so it'd be open at both ends, and we would estimate the height because every hoop has to be like 10 feet high.
Hmm.
So you would tie it up like 10 feet high or proximity of 10 feet, sometimes more, sometimes less. You would tie it to a telephone pole, and
Mm-hmm.
that's your basketball court.
Yeah. And could you imagine some person they're reading their newspaper near the window, they hear the noise, they're like, again with the rubbing.
Again, with the
What?
scraping and the rubbing. First it's the
uh,
skelly, then it's a fire hydrant, now it's a crate.
So what about
Goddamn people with the
yeah?
scraping and rubbing.
So what about games? Like I know when we were kids, we had things like jacks. We played, handball.
yeah.
Uh, what is the thing? Foursquare? Did y'all have Foursquare things?
Yeah,
Oh,
Foursquare at home.
Yeah.
We
Did you all
called
do
it. I think
Foursquare?
we called it Chinese handball.
Chinese handball. We also did that too. We called it
right.
Chinese handball
And
too.
let's see. And sometimes Mother May I, red light,
Yeah.
green
How about
light.
those things?
Oh
Did you
yeah,
all
we
do
played
that?
that. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
red
Oh yeah,
light. Yeah,
like Squid
like
Games and stuff. Oh yeah,
yeah,
we did
Yeah,
that.
which is
Yeah.
kind of interesting in Squid Game that they put these kids games that do red light, green light, you
yeah,
know, and basically there's a what's called a red light, green light that they do in there, but theirs has the words are saying something else, but basically it's our red light, green light.
yeah.
Yeah, you
We
had to
we
stop.
we played that. Red Rover.
Yep.
That
Yeah,
was another one.
Mm-hmm.
and Mother May
Um,
I? Yes, you may.
Played that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the perennial
Mm-hmm.
one of the perennial street games that not actually played in the street. And I can't imagine how many um, people didn't know how to play this game when I grew up. I thought everybody played pool when they grew up. Apparently not.
No, everybody doesn't play pool.
Mm-mm.
Especially if you grew up in a religious family. I mean, they don't
Mm-mm.
allow that.
What's anti-religious about pool?
Oh my gosh, who knows? They,
It's
but they,
gambling.
yeah,
pool for pool. We had on Westchester Avenue. We had a pool hall.
mm-hmm,
Okay, and we used to go up there, and I think we paid maybe like $2 an hour or something like that. And the
mm-hmm.
pool hall was very Pulp Fiction-y looking. You know what I'm saying? Or it should be in some type of detective movie or something.
Really?
It was dark. Okay, let's put
Yeah,
it
it
this
was
way.
dark,
It was not
and
as light as the outside.
I remember, and I was hoping that he would show up, but When you went up in the pool hall, they had a poster with this gentleman. He was brown skinned and in a tuxedo, and he's
Oh,
leaning on a pool table, and it always said, I think his name was Chiquito. Chiquito, Chiquito is coming.
It never
okay.
came.
He never came.
No.
He never came.
Okay.
Never came. You know, so he looked a little bit like Chico Hamilton, the jazz percussionist or whatnot. But yeah, I think he was from maybe the 50s, and they
Mm-hmm.
just never took the
Yeah,
poster
They
kept
never
it.
down.
took it. They
Yeah.
never took any of the photos down.
Yeah.
And but
Yeah,
the thing is, you learn how to play, and you had to play with kids your boys your own age. I never saw a girl in there. I never saw a girl in there, but it's more mainly boys your own age. And then when you get older, you play against the older boys,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just you learn all these tricks. You can't sit on the pool table. You learn all these
Mm-hmm. All
prohibitions.
the rules.
You
Yeah.
can't sit on it, lean on the pool table. If you're gonna do a bridge, you got to use that extension.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you could do behind the back stuff when you get real fancy. And you could call your shots. Like 8 ball side
Mm-hmm.
pocket. That's where the real money is. If you're betting
Yeah.
real money,
Yeah.
yeah, and
and
and and again, that was pool was a game that is almost since New York started. You had pool halls.
but are they?
You
But
know,
with the gentrification going on, and since I haven't been in parts of New York in a while, are there any pool halls left?
they oh my God, they have you might have one or two. I know Brooklyn, downtown Brooklyn, there was a pool hall. They was, but they mainly catered it towards, I guess you could call hipsters.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, how about
also,
stuff? Yeah, it's a pool have things like bowling and stuff. Do they do
yeah,
that too?
bowling too. It's been geared to more towards hipsters.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the old days when you had like really big bowling alleys in every borough.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um,
So how do these pool halls look now? They don't look like the ones like back in the
nah,
day.
nah, they don't look dark and smoky. You
Well,
don't have a guy at one table with a cigar in his mouth. You know what
okay,
I'm saying?
this is television and movie New York, but they still have like pool tables and bars,
Mm-hmm.
restaurants, places like that.
Restaurants, no. Bars, you might be lucky if it's one of the older bars out here. But everything has been,
Sanitized.
yeah. You hit the word, sanitized.
Sanitized.
Everything has been
Mm-hmm.
sanitized. Um, what I miss is being able to go into a place like the Blarney Stone. Okay, the Blarney Stone. It was, if you were a sports fanatic, the Blarney Stone was heaven because they would have the games on. They would have horse racing on the TV. They had the bar, and they had the food. You get your corned beef and hash, or your your meatloaf sandwich, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it just had that. The Blarney Stone had that old New York feel about it. Okay,
All
that's
gone
that's
now.
that's all gone.
Well, how
Yep.
All
about
gone.
the things like when you drive by, when you're young, we used to go to visit relatives we had in New York. Walk around sometimes, drive around places. They had like the bocce courts and stuff like that.
Oh, that's sadly
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing that's disappeared from New York because I remember two bocce ball places. They had one up in Allen Bay Park, and then they had one in Brooklyn near, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong,
Mm-hmm.
Otto, downtown Brooklyn. Do you remember the area where the Jehovah's Witness had their warehouse near the Brooklyn Bridge?
Hmm.
I don't.
Yeah, in fact, I think the it. I think what it was the Jehovah Witnesses. It was a warehouse that they took over.
Ah.
They're not even there no more. Now they've converted that warehouse into like I guess luxury apartments.
Everything's luxury
Mhm.
apartments.
Yeah, but bocce ball, yeah, that was another New York mainstay. You usually saw 95% of the time old Italian guys
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, and
playing bocce ball.
parts of Brooklyn, Italian section of Brooklyn, like oh God, we had Canarsie and what other places, and they they just had bocce ball courts, and
Mhm.
Yeah,
and there was older Italian men playing the game.
yeah. You They would be sitting there quietly smoking their cigars, and now probably half of them were probably made men. they,
Mhm.
they killed a bunch of people and they just chilling out. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and people would watch them. I mean, I would stand around and watch them.
Mhm.
It wasn't dangerous or wasn't anything like controversial. It was just what it was.
okay. Now
Mhm.
you tell me, since you watched them,
They got me.
what exactly was the
Nadine,
object of the
mother, they
game?
got me.
The object of the game,
Listen
I
Mhm.
to that
think,
thing. I'm coming in.
to me was
And
like
Mom, I didn't put all my clothes in,
pitching
but I put
pennies.
enough in the last week. But I'm coming.
Oh,
And
okay.
mommy,
I think it was a thing like
huh?
almost like horseshoes, almost like how close can you
Okay.
get to the thing? Can you make
Mhm.
your thing get closer to a particular goal? And then if you can knock somebody out of the way and take
Right.
their place closer. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
well,
and you know what? It's becoming in this part of the country, believe it or not, Penelope, is becoming a
Mhm.
thing. We're having
really?
Hot.
new developments saying that they want to, for some reason, have bocce courts on their property.
Well, because they're narrow and they don't take up a whole lot of space,
But
and it's
I
an
don't know how they knew
activity.
about
And
it. I don't even know how they knew about it.
mhm.
I mean, it's like James. There was a woman down here who opened up a place and she called it a bodega. And I told Penelope, let's go and see
Mhm.
what this bodega is all about. And so I went in and looked around. It was just a sandwich shop.
It
And so
said this is not.
I asked
Oh
one of
no!
the
So they call themselves a bodega, but they were selling avocado toast.
Yes.
basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I
Basically.
asked
Yeah.
asked one of the white chick. I asked her. I said, why do you call this a bodega? She said, well, my sister, had, traveled to New York a couple of times, and she liked the word. She liked the name.
Mhm.
Eh,
That's
eh,
it.
That's
Oh
it.
well, they even have now a New York made whiskey called Bodega Cat.
Okay.
That's what Carl
There we
Okay,
Smith
go.
came.
I don't I just leave that door closed. I
But there
can't
was
mess with
always
that.
a cat. There was always
Yeah,
a cat. There's always a cat in the bodega. And the thing is, the bodegas were always corner stores.
yeah.
And this place called itself a bodega. It was in the middle of the block.
There's a segment that they did on this occasional segment they do on late night with Seth Meyers called Amber Says What. And it's one that she did recently. She was saying about going to a bodega and said that that's the place if you need to buy loose cigarettes, you need to buy exactly 3 tampons, you need to
Mhm.
get some other
Yep.
kind of thing, and all at 2 o'clock in the morning from the same spot. That
Yep.
Yeah,
There
is
Yeah,
you
big
go.
they're called
like
Lucy's. I mean,
yeah.
Yep.
Lucy. Anything Lucy's is basically anything that you should usually buy in a package that got
Mhm.
opened up and then sold individually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cigarettes, diapers, tampons,
Mhm.
all that.
And nothing for nothing. There's a bodega that I stop off at before I go into work. Um, on here we go on Herkimer.
Oh,
Okay,
here we go. Come on.
but they've been a lifesaver because I can get stuff that by the time I get home I can't really get because some of the stores in Manhattan are closed. So
Mhm.
this bodega, and listen, they it's nonstop. You get people going in and out of there because they have everything. They have the well, not the Lucy's. Um, they have anything else.
Yeah,
You know.
I mean, I remember when Penelope. Remember when there was a recall on Excedrin? Remember that?
Yes. Oh my. Yes.
And you couldn't go to any
And
major
like
store
and
and find it.
any
Any
extra
sort of
strength, etc.
you can find, but you can find it at the local
At
bodega
the bodega, they
store
had
there.
them.
That's right. That's right. You're
They
absolutely right. I
operate
remember
outside of the
Hmm.
normal,
them.
uh,
Yeah.
out of the normal retail market. They say I'll get a Excedrin, a Lucy cigarette, and a honey bun.
There you
And,
go.
and the reason why this bodega doesn't sell Lucy's is because they sell untaxed cigarettes.
Oh,
Mm.
Okay.
usually from the South or Virginia,
Yeah,
Maryland or Virginia. Yeah.
Virginia. Yeah, you know. So
Hmm.
but for another show, that's been the lifeline of New York. You know, and see, back in the day, we didn't call them bodegas. We just said, "Oh, I'm going to the Spanish store."
Yeah, pretty much they run by Puerto Ricans.
Yeah.
Puerto Ricans, and then Dominicans, and then Arabs, and
Yeah,
now
well, see here in New York, it's it's the deli, and it's like you can stand on a corner just about anywhere in New York
Hmm.
and throw a rock, and you'll hit a deli run by Yemens.
don't
Okay,
make any sense.
yeah, it's crazy. And see, the thing about it with with them, they sell everything but alcohol.
Hmm.
Okay, they sell everything
Where am I
but
supposed to
out.
get my old E from?
Listen, with me, I gotta go up the block to Blue Moon.
I gotta get old
To,
E. Just get a.
yeah, to get
Come
my
on.
alcohol and beverage up there. You know, every other store in this part of Manhattan, the delis, they got deli this, deli that, deli
Everything's a deli.
Hmm.
everything
Yeah.
in deli. You know, new deli, old deli, here deli,
What
there
they
deli.
don't understand is perfect summer evening is a old Del Monte can with with open at open at both ends on a
Hmm.
fire hydrant and a bottle of Old E in the other,
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
spraying
No,
people
it
and
sounds
Yeah.
plugging down a nice cold malt liquor.
it
Yeah.
sounds
Okay.
it sounds like fun to me. It sounds like spring is bursting all over.
Spray
You
pressure all
Okay.
over.
There you go.
And what do
but
you? Let me ask you this: since I'm
yeah.
not in New York anymore, what do you have to do to run into a dice game, a crap game, a CeeLo?
Yeah.
Oh,
Where do you have to go? Who do I have to bribe?
well, I kid you not. You could take your life in your hands and go on Herkimer.
No, I'm not going to
Okay,
Herkimer.
Her, them young boys, right in one of the houses over there, because they do a lot of nefarious stuff over there. Okay, and
Yeah.
it'd be like five and six of them deep.
Hmm.
They be playing CeeLo, which I found out that CeeLo is
Hmm.
actually a Chinese Asian dice game,
I didn't
Really?
know. I don't know. So explain number one. Number one, I never played in the dice game with
right?
people that I did not know. That's number one. Never did that. Would never
Hmm.
do it. Number two, that's a New York thing. Never do that, y'all. Never
Hmm.
get in the game.
That's right. Yeah,
Number two, explain to the people what CeeLo is.
I have absolutely positively no idea. All I remember
Three
is
dice instead of two.
three dice.
Hmm.
Um, there's something called in CeeLo. It's a term called head crack. Okay, running back. I know you get something about running back, but I have no idea.
Okay,
And like I
so
said, I came up watching my friends play it, but I never,
I
I
taught
never,
I taught my sons how to play CeeLo. Okay,
right?
that's what I grew up playing CeeLo. So CeeLo, play in a group
Hmm.
of people, usually, amongst people that you know. You never go into a CeeLo game not knowing anybody. If you're playing CeeLo
Hmm.
and you see some people walk up and say they want to play, then it's time to disperse the game because either they're
Yeah,
trying to rob you or
yeah.
cause some other sort of danger. Okay, so and you never walk up on a CeeLo game or any dice game or crap where you
Hmm.
don't know anybody because the same thing happens. So CeeLo is played with three dice or die, right?
Mhm.
And then the goal is to get 4, 5, 6, which is CeeLo, four, five,
Right.
six. So I may start a CeeLo game and I'm the bank. And so if I'm the bank, that means you have to beat my number. So if I come out and I roll 4, 5, 6, and you put down your bet of $1, I win. I take all your money. I take it all. So if I
Mm.
roll my three dice and I roll two dice, let's say a 1 and a 4, that means you have to
Mhm.
beat my 4. That's my point. You have to beat my 4. So if you roll anything lower than a 4,
Mm-hmm.
then I take your money. If you roll a 4, that's a push. You get to keep your money. And
Mhm.
of course, if you win
Ah.
above if you roll a two ones and a 5, then I have to pay you because I'm the bank.
Mhm.
Unless you bust me,
Mm-hmm.
if you bust me, you roll 4, 5, 6. You bust me. Not only do you take everybody's money, but then you become the bank.
Okay. Okay. Cause see, you learn something new every day. Cause all the time, I have friends that play CeeLo. They be in the park.
Mhm.
It'd be a circle of people playing and whatnot. But I never. Now
See what
maybe
playing?
with yeah, I'd never. It was just too much for me. My thing was
Mhm.
it was just simplicity. You know, let's play, roll some regular dice. We
Okay.
good. You
Okay.
know, but from what I understand, CeeLo is um, it's now if you want to get into the nitty gritty of New York,
Mhm.
that's CeeLo. Okay, because from what I understand, in Chinatown it started from there. All of them like Bowery Boy types.
Mhm.
They, you know what I'm talking about,
Mhm.
Otto.
Yep.
With all them Bowery Boy types, then they started playing it, and then it just took over the city. In fact, I would venture to say that during the time, from what I remember, you saw more people playing CeeLo than you did regular dice.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I could find more CeeLo games than I could find crap games.
yeah. That's
And,
that's a
and
that's a true New York. That's a New York game.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's New York game. And it just everything the roll of the dice. You know 4, 5, 6 CeeLo.
Mhm.
If you roll 1, 2, 3, you lose automatically. 1, 2, 3.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
it's a straightforward game. And I always laugh at the singer that calls himself CeeLo Green
Huh.
because people don't know what
What
that
CeeLo is? Yeah.
that yeah, they
Yeah.
don't know what it is. That guy's that's not that of course it's not his real name.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. But I
according
wonder.
to then since what you call it, Sonia isn't with us here. According to this, it says that CeeLo was started, and they said the earliest documentation is in 1893 when
Wow.
it was played by Chinese American laborers. And let's go down and says CeeLo flourished in Harlem during the 1970s and 80s. The game remains popular in American inner cities, but is more prominent in various New York City neighborhoods
Hmm.
Mhm.
such as Harlem, Brownsville, Crown Heights, South Bronx, and Washington Heights, whereas street craps remains popular in other American cities such as Los Angeles, Atlanta, Chicago, and parts of the South.
Now it's becoming
A,
more popular here.
Yeah.
a
And it's
deadly 2019 Brooklyn shooting was linked by police to a game of CeeLo.
Mm.
now see I never when I was coming up, I never heard of anybody get shot for a CeeLo game.
No, I never heard anybody getting shot over
Now I heard of
CeeLo.
people getting shot on craps. Like if you went to a craps game and you were stupid enough to go into a craps game and not know anybody who was playing craps, and you
Mhm.
won, and then you say, "Oh boy, I won," and you get all happy, and you said, well, "Now
Mhm.
it's time for me to leave." I hear my mama calling me.
Mhm.
Something was going to happen to you.
Yeah,
You wouldn't
yeah.
be either. You wouldn't be allowed to leave the game, or you wasn't going to leave the game with all that money.
I mean, listen, in the very first story in my short story collection, uh, this singer Nell O'Shea, she's missing, and my main character is, trying to find out what happened to her, and her nickname is the honest, supposedly on the Bowery, the honest showgirl, and he's like, she ain't honest. I busted her in a
Mhm.
CeeLo game in the Bowery, so all that honest showgirl stuff, please.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's the quintessential New
New
York
York
game.
games.
Yeah.
Games.
Oh, and
Like I
one last.
said, if if you want to get in the CeeLo game, just go to Herkimer.
Okay, there you go.
I
Ooh.
I'm not
can't
going to
get.
Herkimer. I played all the places at Cranston, uh, 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 read off. I played in all of them except for the South Bronx. I never
Wow.
played CeeLo in the South Bronx. Cause to be honest, I ain't trying to be like James said, nothing for nothing. I ain't trust no niggas there. No.
Well, it was always a thing of distrust between the Bronx and Brooklyn, because when you look at it, if you go to from the Bronx to Brooklyn, you got a long way to run to get home. And if you go from Brooklyn to the Bronx, same thing. You
Uh-huh.
know, it's a long way to run. But now in New York City, I would venture to say that it's been so things have been so intertwined that distrust is not even there no
I
more.
don't think I
Mhm.
don't think it mattered, and I don't think, like back in the day, we could walk down the street and see a CeeLo game or a Dice game.
Mhm.
That doesn't happen in the gentrified neighborhoods anymore.
I
No.
don't know. We haven't been there to go through one in recent years, but if they're the people that are moving in don't know how to play, then you can pretty much bet that it's not being done.
Yeah, and I think I knew I would guess that they wouldn't be interested in it, in those games. I may be wrong, but you know,
Yeah, you'll find some that get interest, because going back to the
Mhm.
bodega that I stop off at Rockaway and Herkimer, they they're involved with numbers.
Mhm.
Okay, above table numbers and under the table numbers. There's a white guy that's in front of that store almost every day dealing playing numbers.
Mhm.
You know, I'm like, damn.
why would they play numbers when numbers are basically the lotto, isn't it? I don't.
Well,
It's
because
different though. It's a different thing, isn't it?
it's different, and also the case I would venture to say that people still like the thrill of dealing with illegal numbers.
Well, let me ask you
Well,
this. This is the way I understood numbers. I never played numbers, but this is the way I heard the older people talk about numbers. It was always the last three digits of the attendance at Aqueduct at the horse
Yeah,
racing at the at the
Mhm.
at the end of the day. Is that correct?
yeah, yeah.
Well,
And in fact, now, but right now, it's the last three numbers from some racetrack, I think in Pennsylvania. You
why
know,
would they go to Pennsylvania?
I don't know. I think maybe it's a seasonal thing, but I know because believe it or not, the other day, not that I was gonna play any
Mhm.
illegal
Oh
numbers,
no, not
because
you.
Oh, it's not
no,
you ever. No.
no, not
No.
me. No, but seriously, I wouldn't know what the hell to do. But just out
Yeah.
of out of curiosity, you remember this, Otto? Just out of curiosity, and it cost $1. I brought a big red,
Oh yeah.
okay, and it had all the
What
numbers.
is that?
Big red, it's like they keep statistics on the numbers that come out for the year.
Like a
Also, they
tip
have a
sheet.
thing where they have people that different people, like one is supposed to be a doctor, another one I think is
Mhm.
supposed to be some type of shaman or something, where they see numbers in their dreams, supposedly,
Oh, okay.
and they print it, and they're like, oh, for Thursday play 657, and for Friday,
Play it in the combo. The
yeah,
whole way.
Okay.
yeah, 50-50, all this. From from what I saw, they were taking the last three numbers from some track
Mm-hmm.
down in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You
I
Really?
didn't
know,
know that. I thought it was
while
always
but see,
always the
that's
Belmont, the Bel or
right,
Aqueduct or something.
Mm-hmm.
right.
Yeah.
But they do, I do think that they still take numbers from Belmont and Aqueduct. And like
And
you
it used
said,
to be, and one numbers I think there was a Chinese a Chinese cartoon in the back of the New York Daily News.
oh yeah,
Remember that?
wow, that's a blast from the past.
So
Yeah,
what did
there
they
was a
use? What did they use from that?
there was
Oh
a
God, what
Chinese
was
guy that used to hold up fingers or something, and whatever
it?
he held up, that was the number.
Yeah, and I think it wasn't just the fingers. I think you had to look within the cartoon. But what was the name of that?
I forgot what that cartoon was, but it was
Ah,
always in the back of the
shit.
New York Daily News.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
And that's how you knew
oh,
what the number was.
Next to the jumbo, next to the
Jump.
jumbo thing. It was
Oh
like,
wow,
Wow.
that you know what? That just made the hair on back of my neck stick up because
Wow.
it's been so freaking. I totally forgot about that.
yep, yep.
Wow.
I was listening to what the old people were talking about the indecent things they were doing.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I'm quite sure you did. You At one point you got the paper and you trying to figure out what the fuck.
What the hell they
Is,
looking at? And I
They're
saw
looking
that
at.
Chinese
Yeah.
yeah,
guy holding up like three fingers and doing some other things, and whatever it was, it came out to three numbers, and somebody said, I hit the number."
Okay.
yeah.
Well,
Now that's definitely New York.
Now
That's
well, I
Penelope,
that's
think the
Penelope
attraction
from
is the
Florida,
fact that I
Yeah.
think
Yeah. I'm from South Florida, so I don't.
y'all played numbers too.
Absolutely.
What did y'all base that
I
on?
didn't know. Nobody. I never asked. I guess I asked my aunt. If she played the number, I can ask her.
yeah, you
Aunt
just know
Mindy,
somebody will come back and either say
Penelope,
they won or they
Aunt Mindy
lost.
used to play the number.
But what was it based on? What number were they looking at to know whether or not they won?
Woman,
Because you couldn't hide in New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was always the attendance or that Chinese dude in the back of the paper.
yeah,
So not
yeah.
like
There
you can
was
make it up. And then it's some people like you hit the numbers. Too many people hit. Like if James was the
Mm-hmm.
bookie, and James was
Mm-hmm.
the bookie, and too many people hit, James would try to disappear. People are looking for
Had
Yeah,
him.
to pay. He said,
yeah,
"Ah, I'll pay it off." Huh?
yeah. You The next thing you know, I'm sitting in a shabby hotel like the Twilight Zone,
You ain't
Yep.
got no
Yep.
money
with
to
my bag,
play.
trying to figure out what bus can I catch out of here. you know what I'm
well
saying?
up here. It was just that you trusted whoever your I guess bookie was, or whoever you got your number from. It was like
Mm-hmm.
you trusted them, and that was it. You never heard about anybody getting short shifted. I guess so many people lost; they were always covered. So
Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because there are plenty of losses, and
yeah.
most of the time in New York, you bet
Mm-hmm.
with your barber. The Black Barber Shop was the place, but had a whole bank of phones.
Hmm.
I said, I asked somebody, why is the phone always ringing in Val's shop? He's running numbers, man.
Oh, okay.
But nowadays they probably just put you on a they just put you on a text chain today, and that's where the number comes up. Okay.
Oh, and see, another thing in New York back in the day was if you went in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you went to like a record stop, right? Record shop, and number one, you go in there, and for it to be a record shop, it was only like two records on display,
Mm-hmm.
and everything is dark, and you're like, well, shit, they supposed to be selling, records, vinyl LPs, but no, it was a number spot.
Yeah,
Wow.
and that's the only reason you would go in there.
I'm pretty certain that a wash house here in our community is running numbers or they are laundering money or
They're probably
something
doing
because
something,
I
but you know
can't
what though?
imagine why it's
But
still there.
the thing is though, Penelope, I would say to
Hmm.
you is that they're not harming anybody that I'm aware of. You know what I mean? I mean,
Hmm.
gambling is
Yeah,
so ubiquitous here now. I mean,
yeah,
you
that's
can't watch
true.
a sporting event without them talking about sports duel, fan duel, or whatever.
Hmm.
So putting $10 on what the what the attendance is going to be tomorrow at any given racetrack. It's gambling used to be a really big sin
Yeah,
for
and
obvious
now,
reasons.
man, I mean, they've run out of all the other, they put everything else for sale. So gambling, I guess it's finally say, well, put that on out there too. Everything else we put out there already.
Yeah,
Well, that's the two things that bother me about that is that before they always said about gambling destroyed the integrity of the game, and so far they don't do it as badly with college games, but with any kind of pro game, they literally give you an over and an under
That's
now,
ridiculous. It's
yeah,
and
they
ridiculous.
do.
you have and these are not just somebody they dragged in off the street. These are the
Hmm.
regular commentators that the
Say
whole
this
thing
stuff,
about.
and there's
And
sponsorships by these different platforms. It's
But let me ask you this.
ridiculous.
Let me ask you this though. I, for one, can understand why Shoeless Joe Jackson is not in the Hall of Fame. I agree with that, him being banned.
Right.
Hmm.
I do not agree with Pete Rose being banned from the
Absolutely,
Hall of
me
Fame.
either. Me either.
So I with the embracing of gambling, how do you justify keeping Pete Rose up? I get
Exactly.
Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yeah, because he cheated. He
Shoeless Joe
didn't just
Jackson
he
did
didn't
what he was.
gamble. He cheated.
well, y'all are aware that there was a judge about 3 or 4 weeks ago now who said, and this is the weirdest uh, justification I could think of, but his justification was, well, since these people are now dead, they cannot do any further harm to the game. So he lifted
Yeah.
the expulsion of Shoeless Joe Jackson, the entire Chicago, I think it's the Chicago Black Sox team, and Pete
Yeah.
Rose, which means that they could all be eligible for the Hall of Fame as early
Well,
as
see,
this
see,
And
fall.
but
the
see,
the Hall of
Francis,
Well,
Fame should of
the
itself.
operative
Hmm.
word is eligible because that judge doesn't vote.
okay. Well,
He
Well,
see,
that's
doesn't
what,
vote.
here's the thing
Yeah, and who
with
is he to say anything about Major League Baseball?
no. Well, what it is this: the commissioner Manford.
Hmm.
He's the one that said, and mind you, under Biden from Trump, he's the one that lifted the ban. Okay. Now, in the case of Shoeless Joe Jackson, he shouldn't have been banned because he wasn't the main person involved. He was like on the edges
But he wasn't
But
of
he
it.
should
involved.
have. But he should have said something. He should not.
Right,
He should have said something.
right.
So I think that is cheating, and he was involved, just like everybody. That Texas, the Houston, in Houston, they should have been banned. They should not be able to MVP or anything like that because they're cheaters. And I do not understand by
But
why
gambling,
Cole. I don't
gambling
understand why
takes it to
Cole
another
Right.
became.
level.
Yeah, to me it's
But
like
see
doing
here's
cheaters.
here's the now. Like I said, with Shoeless Joe Jackson, he wasn't the ringleader, and actually, the ringleader wasn't even a starting player for the White Sox. Okay, he was
But I
just
don't
somebody,
care. They cheated.
but he was yeah. But I look at it like this, right? Now with Pete Rose, the problem with Pete Rose is that Bartley G. Germani gave him an out. He gave him an out. He said, just admit what you did and everything's fine. Pete Rose, being Pete Rose, didn't want to admit what he did.
Hmm.
Okay. He didn't want to admit what he did. All he had to say is, yes, I did gamble on teams during right in the dugout during the game and whatnot. That's all he had to do. But Pete Pete Rose's ego got him into that. Okay.
well, he,
Now,
he should have.
as far as them being reinstated, I don't have a problem because my thing is if you have somebody like Cap Anson from the Chicago White Stockings, which later became, believe it or not, the Cubs, he has 3,000 hits, but he was also an out and out racist that blocked blacks from playing in Major League Baseball. So
Well,
my
the
thing
same
is,
with Ty
if
Cobb.
yes, Ty Cobb was even worse. Ty Cobb, he beat up a black groundskeeper in Detroit, and then when the man's wife intervened, he beat her up too.
Well, the
Just
thing is,
like Ty Cobb beat up a man, jumped in the stands and beat up a man at I get Gibbs Field or whatever where the Titans played. The only problem was the man didn't have any hands.
What?
he's
Okay,
but
and they said,
but he's
well,
he's already in there. I mean, the thing is,
and that's what
so how do you
that's what
get
I'm
him
saying.
out?
No, I don't want to see him out. Is the damage is done? It's
I
what I'm
mean,
saying
basically,
is
it's like you're looking at a system that has
yeah.
excused this behavior for certain people.
His on-field
You know,
performance.
yeah, but it has
So
excused other people. You
yeah,
know,
so
Well,
yeah,
now there
if
was
these
somebody who said that Chekhov really wasn't that bad, that there was a sports writer that didn't like him, and so he just put all those stories out there. So said
nah,
Chekhov
Ty,
may not have been a saint, but he wasn't quite as
you know,
bad as
he was
you
people
probably worse.
believed him to
you
be.
know
He
what
was probably worse.
you know what Ty Cobb called basketball. Ty Cobb, excuse me, Ty Cobb called basketball nigger ball.
Okay,
Okay, because it was so many
That
blacks
convinced you enough,
playing.
Chris?
well,
So,
maybe
but
we should re-examine his eligibility then. In that
Yeah,
case.
yeah.
so my thing is, if you had these out and out racists
Hmm.
in the game, plus Denny McLean with his gambling problem, you might as well let Pete Rose in, and you might
Absolutely.
as well, and the same thing, you shouldn't go after Joe Jackson, okay?
I
And see,
disagree. I disagree. There's a big difference between cheating and gambling.
well, you know
Cheating
what?
is cheating. I mean,
Yeah,
it has
but
an effect. It has an effect on the
right.
gameplay, and I
Well,
think
you know
cheaters
what?
should not be allowed to enter the Hall of Fame.
Okay, so if that's the case, then you're gonna have to get rid of Whitey Ford
Yep,
because he used to scuff the ball. You have to get rid of Norm Cass because he used the cork bat. I don't know if Greg Nettles is in, but you got to get rid of him.
No, he
You
ain't
got.
in it.
hmm
I'm just saying, baseball has been a game of cheaters since day one.
but you
Since
know what? Still, I mean,
Hal Chase.
we cannot accept it. It's still,
some
for us
cheating,
to say it's okay, but this is how these people run their lives now by saying
but some
cheating is the
cheating,
same as winning, and it's
but some
not.
cheating, some cheating is allowed. I mean, to me, scuffing the ball. To me, you scuff the ball. You trying to throw a spitball. I still got to hit it, right? You still once it leaves your hand, you have less control of the ball. I can do, I can either not hit it or not
Yeah,
swing at it or whatever, right?
But it
yeah.
makes it more likely that the hitter is not going to
It's
be
being
able.
deceived, right? It's
It
being
is, yeah,
deceived.
and there should be, but you should
But it's
know
the same.
that they
But it's
have
the,
the right that they are throwing that ball, so you
I
know how to
mean,
react to it.
you
You
even
know,
have to you would even have to get rid
okay, you know
of
what? We are at the end of our time here today,
uh,
and we want to talk about.
oh man,
I know we want to talk
Mhm.
about cheating and baseball. Next time, yeah, sure. But we're getting
Yeah.
down to the end of our program, and I really appreciate you urbane prospectors giving us digging deep and giving us the skinny about all
play
this stuff from New
CeeLo
York. It's
whenever
really
you can. Get
fantastic.
yourself a CeeLo. Get yourself 3 dice or die. Is it die or
Mm.
dice?
Die, die.
3 die
Hmm.
and play the CeeLo game.
All
It's
right.
yeah, and
enjoyable.
if not that, get some bottle caps and wax
Yeah,
and
yeah,
And play what?
uh, skelzies.
yes, yeah.
Well, this has been highly educational because, being in the South and, you're like 2 steps away from being sharecroppers and everything. I thought that we were kind of,
Uh,
dragging on him. But after this, I said, yeah, we weren't as bad as I thought.
Oh,
No,
wow. Wow. Okay,
y'all weren't
great.
bad at all. As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, I knew a lot of black people during the summer who would always say they would go down south for the
Hmm.
summer
Yeah.
and then come back up. So, going down south for us New Yorkers was like, going to like the Swiss Alps or something.
That's what it
It
was
was it
by.
was it was a vacation time.
Well,
Yeah.
back then, I think we had more people coming up for vacation from the south.
Yeah. To visit
You
their
know,
families that had moved up north.
yeah, at least
Yeah.
where
We
I
would,
was brought up.
yeah, we would go. That's what we would do. We go to New York to visit our relatives that lived in the city
Did you stay for
during
the
the
whole
summer.
summer?
No, no, I never stayed for the whole summer. We did part of summer because we go to New York, then we would go to Connecticut because we had relatives in Connecticut.
How long would you stay?
Now, put them all together, it's probably close to the full summer.
Okay,
But we
that's
didn't
fair.
stay. But we didn't stay in New York as long as we stayed in Connecticut.
Yeah, I
Because in
mean, we,
Connecticut, our relatives were young; they were like our age. The ones in New
Okay.
York were the older people. So who will stay with us?
because
Oh my
because James
gosh!
will remember this. It was like the commercial they had for us.
I know the
Uh,
Fresh Air Fund.
yeah, fun time,
Yeah,
summer in the city.
yeah, yeah,
I'm in the city.
yeah. There we go.
yeah, I
get
say
these get these
we
blackies
talked.
out of the asphalt and take them to the country, the fresh
Yeah,
air fund.
yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, we
Absolutely.
talk funny and everything, but
Okay, see, there we go. All right, y'all. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us here with the Urbane Prospectors of Gotham. We'll be back again next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Be in Gotham and everything. Take care of yourselves, and see you later.